Mrs. Horton.
Actually, this is not a motion. This is just a clarification on some of the comments. One is Murdoch and Sage, which are the two parcels out in the middle of town that are in the county properties and are wanting to be developed at some point in time in the near future, don't want to annex into our city because they don't want to be facing the Measure B vote. And so they're looking for some kind of relief on the Measure B vote, and if they're going to exceed the densities, they in all likelihood are heading towards developing in the county. That being said, the reason to hang on to a sewer system, and you can look at it all different kinds of ways, if you want to have any kind of voice on how that development is going, if it's going to be developed outside your sphere, or I shouldn't say the sphere of influence because it's still in our sphere of influence, but it's not going to be our planning people looking at these plans, is going to be by the sewer district. And Ms. Raymond, I had a conversation with you. I called you to ask if that specifically was something that we could use to help guide their decisions on design and density.
Councilwoman Horton, yes, we did have that conversation, and I think, as I had indicated, it would be the only thing that we would have at this point. I'm not sure how big of a stick it would be for us to affect the actual, obviously the density and the development, but it would be the only thing that that we would have as a bargaining chip.
That is the only thing. So for that reason, I mean, I believe that the city can efficiently run the system. It has for years. I believe that competition creates a market that will give the ratepayers the best possible price. The water district will not have any competition, so they will be able to set the rates wherever they want to. And for years, I guess they used to submit for an RFP on that RFP when we went out for bid, and then they stopped bidding on it because they couldn't meet the prices of the people that ultimately got the contract for maintaining our system. Why is this important? And I have this argument with you guys all the time. I believe that water districts, and I know water districts are not land use agencies. That is not their purview. We may be able to use this system to help negotiate for some higher density projects that are infill in our community, including possibly the RENA process. I've been called unethical for this position by 2 of the council members, but I contend that this is the art of negotiation. It also helps us when working with state agency for high density housing. We've not tried the approach, I don't think. But when you're starting to talk to the water district, until they get on board and they start really being realistic about what the strain would be on our systems, infrastructure and ability to provide the water for higher density infill projects that they're talking about for the RENA process, we can't really give them this system. The big question I have on the way they've parceled it out now, because they're no longer saying they want it for free, they're actually negotiating some things, but I don't see anything in here on valuation. So as far as the land swap is concerned, what is the value of the Brush Canyon parcel? I know the water district, our sewer system was valued at one point at $9.8 million. I have no idea what the value of this Brush Canyon parcel is, according to the staff report. By working together to provide a workforce housing on the old water district site, what is the water district's contribution to this? All it's saying is they're going to contribute. There's no dollar amount. There's no identifying how that's going to happen. And if there's not a covenant on the land, with the city being part owner of the land, this is not a good deal for our community. And how legal is it for us to designate one employee group to be able to have first dibs on this property? To me, that seems unethical in itself. It should be open to the entire community. And we would never have built a housing project that would benefit city employees first. And they certainly, many of them, would qualify for low income. So why would we do this for a different city agency, the water district? I don't understand this at all. It's still the same money. We're going to be subsidizing, and now we're going to be subsidizing a particular employee groups to have a first deal. Before this transfer is made permanent, we should have all these answers and all the dollars vetted out and made public so public can make comment on things that are actually tangible. All we have are these nebulous statements that are saying, oh, yeah, the water district's going to help us. Yeah, they're going to give us this piece of land. Yeah, they want to work together, but we want our employees to have it first. There's nothing vetted, and that's wrong. And until they start analyzing the true cost of adding higher density projects in our community and starting taking a stand with us on the RENA process, we should maintain the control of this. We can do it less expensively. We can do it more efficiently. I know that staff really is not thrilled about the idea of keeping the system, but I really think that there's many things we've told staff to do in the past that they're not thrilled with either, and they do it. So, and they've been doing it for a long time. But raising the rates became a political issue here at the council. In fact, it became Mr. Drummond's worst council decision of the year when this council majority decided that they weren't going to be raising the rates. So the reality is, if you just raise the rates to what it really would cost, I'm not saying $87 was the right amount. I'm certainly that they could have shaved some of the dollars off of that, but when less than 0.5% of the people in a 218 vote say, yeah, go ahead and raise the rates, and you don't raise the rates, and then even less people say, yeah, go ahead and raise the rates to $87, and you still don't raise the rates to $87 to cover the cost, not good decision making.
I have to say that I fully intended to make a motion tonight to continue this matter, because I agree it's two separate issues, but I certainly applaud the Water District for its willingness to help us match, or meet rather, some very outrageous, in some of our opinions, affordable housing requirements that we have. And for the Water District to actually partner in that endeavor and to be good community members, stewards, and so forth is an exciting development in the city. I would actually like to see those two things, even though they're independent, happen at the same time. And I personally would like to continue this to see if those two simultaneous tracks can occur at the same time. So I will go ahead and make that motion, see if there's any traction with the council on that.
I would second that. And
I think that this will be the most cost-effective way to handle this in the future. The transfer, I mean.
anyone else? Please vote.
Motion passes with Winter voting no.
Mr. Mayor. Mr. Winter, I hear what you have to say there, and I agree with them almost completely, except I do think there's a difference with the Savvy Ranch properties than with the others. And I also think that even though you're right, we're way off and we're exposed and so forth, if the Savvy Ranch properties were approved, we could at least say, hey, it took us 2 times, but it happened. And I think would be some evidence of good faith and so forth of what we've done to and some of us very reluctantly, as you know, with my vote on this one. So I'm fine. The sooner the better, as far as I'm concerned. The costs are a little alarming, but maybe we need an answer sooner rather than later. So I would agree with June, but I would ask you to consider separating the Savvy Ranch from the others, so it'd just be 2 measures. That would be my motion.
I'd second that.
Okay, motion second. Discussion.
Of Dave Adams, city manager, be released to the public. Last Thursday, I watched the televised candidates forum sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce. The following question was asked. In the last few years, we've had several new city managers, some staying 2 years or less. What do you think is the reason for the turnover? To prevent misrepresenting responses, I have provided Mr. Alders with the YouTube link so that the public can see what council members Rikel and Schwing answers were. Mr. Alders, can you play those responses?
Are extremely uninformed. We have a wonderful here.
This is a very dysfunctional, and I got to tell you, Gene's right. There's nobody in this county that really wants to come to work for you over limit because of that.
Again, Mr. Knappenberger and Mr. Hernandez are extremely uninformed. We have a wonderful city manager, Steve Rudemetkin, who's worked for this city for over 30 years. He's so respected among the staff. People who work here are very happy. We're working with about 12 people less. We've gone through furloughs. We've had very difficult times beginning with the fire and working our way through all the issues involved in that. I can't say enough about our city manager and our city staff. And anyone who says other than that doesn't know anything. Flat out doesn't know. As far as other city managers, when I got here, we had an interim city manager who was filling in. We did hire a city manager for a year who just didn't feel this city was a fit for him. And I respect that. And thank goodness we got Steve Rudemetkin. And again, I love him, and everyone I know does. So I hope you all feel the same. I think you probably do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Schwing?
Yes. We'll start with Mr. Kelly. Bill Kelly, who was a consultant hired for me, called a body shop as an interim. He considered staying. He was asked to stay, and then he really disliked one council member who's no longer in the council. If he had stayed, we would be paying him about $250,000 to $260,000 a year right now, which is $50,000 to $60,000 more, actually even more than that, than our current city manager makes. We did a nationwide recruitment. We had 191 applicants. This is for a job my fellow council candidates up here said that nobody wanted. 191 applicants. Many of those from Orange County. We selected Dave Adams from San Juan Capistrano. Dave stayed 1 year, wanted to stay much longer, but decided to retire. Again, dislike of one council member no longer in the council. Steve Rudemetkin came out of retirement to take the job as city council member. He makes less than $200,000 a year. He refused to take a raise when he could have last year. I think he's the best city manager I've ever served with.
Thank you, Mr. Elders. Frankly, neither the response from Ms. Rikel nor the Mayor Schwing was truthful. I intend to expose the truth for the public benefit and let the public decide why the council members replied the way they did. First, let me say that I believe that there has been a pattern or practice of conduct by city council members towards the city managers and the city staff that has strained those relationships beyond what should be tolerated. It has negatively impacted staff performance and must be changed. Is the chair going to recognize me?
No.
You afraid of what I have to say?
No, you don't want to hear what I have to say either.
But what? Go ahead. For the record, Mr. Schwing, do you deny the quotes that I made? They were not read in your presence?
I'm not denying anything, Mr. Winter, at this point.
And Ms. Rikel?
I have no obligation to answer your questions. This is a political stunt, and I will not be a part of it, Mr. Winder. This
All right,
is
I'll read-
absolutely unbelievable.
Thank you. That was the ordinance that was proposed by Mr. Anderson and Ms. Rikel and Mr. Schwing. It appears the only reason that they required tapes of that is so that disputes like this about what happened in a closed session, the truth could be determined what really happened. And now this is the first time that I'm aware of that they won't apply their own ordinance. And I guess one last question of the city attorney, Mr. Litfin. Is there any operation of law that you're aware of that would prohibit the council from taking this action tonight, that is releasing the tapes?
No, even though I will admit I'm generally predisposed to not releasing Brown Act stuff, but there is no prohibition against it because Mr. Adams has consented.
Well, then I think it's pretty clear to me. It's their own ordinance. We have a dispute. I didn't start it. It was started last Thursday by the comments that were made by Ms. Rikel and Mayor Schwing, and ready to vote.
The gentleman asked the question, why now? Very simple. 21 days before the election. Is there any legal requirement to release these tapes? Absolutely not. It's an electioneering stunt, and my vote will be accordingly. I also had many private conversations with Mr. Adams in the course of the year he was here. I will not divulge those to anybody. They were private between Mr. Adams and I, as well they should be. Please vote.
The tie vote.